Apocalypse Now by Desutoria. Chapter 23. Hideki, come on, wake up! Harmony's shaking of his arm made him come to suddenly. It felt early to him. He started up almost instantly, fearing something bad. Harmony greeted him with a warm smile when she saw him sit up. "Morning, sunshine," she said cheerily. "Sorry it's so early, but Blaine was in here a minute ago. He said he has a surprise for us in the dining room. And..." She lunged forward and hugged him suddenly. "I got my Pokemon back! They're fine! Birdo is even healed up. Oh, and here's Starhu." Hideki hadn't quite caught up to her in terms of his awareness yet, but he still remembered the stress she'd shown over Blaine's confiscation of her Pokemon, and felt genuinely glad to have the news. "That's great, Harmony," he said as he returned the embrace and stepped his Starmie's Pokeball from her. "Did he mention that key he talked about earlier?" "Just that he wants to, fill us in on some things in a little bit, after what I suspect to be breakfast. So come on, I'm hungry, and I still need your help getting into the dining room." She added the last part with a playful wink. Wow. Hideki marveled as soon as he and Harmony entered the room, his eyes drawn into the table in front of them. Harmony could only muster a small whimper of joy. V and Xerxes had already begun to eat, unable to resist the succulent temptations long enough to wait for their friends. A treasure trove of breakfast foods filled the length of the table. Fresh fruit, some left whole, some sliced together in bowls of fruit salad. Plates of bacon and pancakes, all liberally doused in rich, creamy syrup. Mounds of hot rolls with a nice selection of jams and jellies. Even what appeared to be an entire tray of eggs Benedict, all with jugs of several variety of milks and juices. "I hope this is sufficient for you all," Blaine said, interrupting Hideki's admiration of their meal. "Sufficient?" he repeated. "This is, well, excessive, frankly." Blaine laughed heartily. "I'll take that as a compliment from you, Hideki." Hideki didn't usually eat breakfast. Then again, he wasn't usually awake before noon, but he gladly made an exception in this case. Not only was he starving, but he was starving for this kind of food, along with everyone else. A hot, plentiful meal after living off trail mixes and lemonade for the last 3 days meant more than he could possibly describe. "Blaine, thank you so much for all the wonderful food," Harmony said after apparently eating all she could muster. "But are you sure this is a good idea? Serving us such a lavish breakfast given the need to store supplies." "If you'll notice, the eggs, the milk, the meats," Blaine began, "none of this food would have lasted much longer. Even assuming we'd still have access to refrigeration for the next several days, I'd hardly count any of this as supplies. These are luxury items, so I thought it would be best to reserve ourselves right now a little bit of a reward. A way to celebrate and, well..." "That's right. Harmony told me you have some news for us," Hideki said. He too had eaten all he could hold by now, with everyone else. "It sounds like you found something good, Blaine." "Right," Blaine said, suddenly looking uneasy. "I suppose before discussing the solution, I should fill you all in on the problem itself." "The virus," Harmony said. "What exactly do you know about it, Blaine?" "Everything now. Thanks to you, Harmony." Blaine stood and began to pace the furthest wall. "In truth, I knew more about the virus than most even before the outbreak. In a way, a very indirect way, I helped to create it." The group exchanged various expressions of surprise and concern as an awkward silence took over the room. Blaine cleared his throat. "Years ago, I was employed by Team Rocket to scientifically pursue the creation of the perfect Pokemon. Those efforts eventually ended with a catastrophic failure that was the Mewtwo project." "Wait, did you say Mew 2? Xerxes asked. "As in a second Mew? Like an evolution?" "No, not an evolution. A clone. Only improved. None of this matters anyway. This is immaterial to the issue at hand." Hideki was somewhat perplexed by Blaine's behavior. Never had he seen the gym leader so flustered, not even during their battle, which Hideki won handily. This seemed to be a touchy subject for Blaine for sure. No, Blaine, please. I'd like to hear more about this Mewtwo project, Xerxes prodded. Don't you guys agree? Let's just hear what it is Blaine wants to tell us about the virus, Hideki said. If he says that it's not important, it's not important. He looked at Blaine and nodded. Very well then. It took us several years of experimentation to get as far as the project's completion. One of the efforts leading up to the creation of the first ever 100% man-made Pokemon, Porygon. I didn't know you helped make Porygon. That's really cool, V said in an attempt to make Blaine more comfortable. She had picked up on the same thing Hideki had. But he, too, was not easy to perfect. It took my team a long time to fine-tune the volatile fusion of artificial coding and organic genetics. There were quite a few failures along the way. One was particularly... The group again sat in silence as Blaine searched for the right words. What you know about Porygon is false. He was not truly the first man-made Pokemon. There was one accident before him. Accident? Harmony repeated. Blaine, this is some really weird stuff you're telling us. Blaine took a moment to think before raising a finger into the air. Wait here a moment. I have to show you something. With that, Blaine left the makeshift dining room in a rush. Hideki, Harmony said, looking at him, all this talk about Mewtwo's and cloning and accidents is really making me uneasy. Hideki wrapped an arm around her and offered an encouraging look. Just let him finish, Harm. I'm sure all this will make sense before you know it. Harmony half smiled as she leaned into him, still not convinced, but appreciative of Hideki's efforts. I agree with Harmony, V interjected. It doesn't even sound like we're talking about Pokemon anymore. I don't even know how they bring back fossil Pokemon, and Blaine said they've already cloned one? I have to admit, Hideki, I'm surprised you're keeping as much faith in Blaine as you are now, Xerxes added, especially after telling us he's partially responsible. Your concerns are all understandable, Blaine said, apparently having just returned. He held a small manila envelope, out of which he retrieved a picture, which he sat down on the table in front of the group. Xerxes was the first to grab the picture, his curiosity off the charts now. After a few seconds of perplexed study, Xerxes showed the picture back to Blaine. Is this how the picture was supposed to come out? I don't see anything here but a mess of purple pixels. That, Blaine explained slowly, is a scan of its DNA, taken during initial testing. Whoa, slow down, Hideki said. It's DNA. What is it? The accident, Harmony said, marveling at the mess of purple squares in the photo, wondering how it could in any way represent life. Correct, said Blaine. The DNA of the very first man-made Pokemon, the prototype of Porygon, codename Missing No.